Welcome to Canada's newest podcast. My name is Charlie Smith, and I've been a journalist for more than 30 years. I've worked at CBC Radio, CBC TV, and I've edited newspapers and magazines. I'm doing this podcast with Wendy Yuan, who is well known to many of you. My co-host Wendy is a successful entrepreneur, a former federal and provincial candidate, and Wendy immigrated to Canada more than 40 years ago with just $50 in her pocket, and she came on a Canadian Development Agency scholarship. Wendy, welcome.
Hi, Charlie. Good to be here.
And now I have to ask you, what led you to want to do a bi-weekly podcast with an old journalist like me?
Old journalist? No, you're still going very strong, Charlie. I've always admired you as a journalist over the years, I remember when I first got into politics 20 years ago, Charlie Smith's name was huge. And I remember how much I was longing to be interviewed by you. And now here's my chance. And I'm feeling very privileged that we can actually do this podcast. And, a lot of you had known me over the years. I always felt that the diverse voice has been missing. I have a lot of stories untold, and I'm really, really excited that I can be sharing those stories. And why do you want to do this with me, Charlie? You've been huge.
Well, I think you're very accomplished, and it's actually an honor to be in your presence, Wendy, when I think of all that you've done in your life. In 2009, you were the inaugural Canadian Immigrant Magazine Top 25 Immigrants in Canada, and you were in a very esteemed company with two former governors general,
right.
Adrienne Clarkson and Jean-Michel Jean. You were in Ujjal Dosanjh, Senator Baltej Dillon. Your company, Bradley Pacific Enterprises, is top 25 exporters in BC. Your business skills are legendary, and that was one of the reasons I think you made the Business in Vancouver 40 under 40 list. And one of the things that I was reading, and we could talk about this in a future episode, was that you and your husband Ken actually bought a company on the Vancouver Stock Exchange.
Right.
And that was key to your business success.
That's right. That's actually the reason why we moved from Montreal to Vancouver 30 some years ago. But thank you so much for your kind words. And you know what? All that accomplishment was done, with the help of a lot of Canadians. And I honestly feel like this country and the community has given me so much. And, for me, it's, like I said, it's another way for me to give back. And I feel immensely honored and privileged to be able to do this with you. I don't wake up every day, living my daily life thinking about my achievements, so-called. But like I said, I wanted this world to be a better place. My son was born here, right? I've been here 40 some years, and I wanted to see a world that's going to be more just, more inclusive, and without bias. I want every one of us to move together without prejudice. Honestly, I just feel like this is something great, and I'm really, truly looking forward to doing this with you.
Well, that's wonderful. But let's not forget the politics, because that's what a lot of people know you for, Wendy. You've run twice federally, once provincially. One thing about provincially, you were with BC United, and then Kevin Falcon shut down the party, and so you couldn't run in Richmond Centre. But you showed your loyalty at that time to BC United. You were approached repeatedly by the Conservatives to cross and join them, but you stuck with, the team you were with,
right.
While others crossed the floor.
How did you know about that?
I have my sources.
I see.
And what I realized from that, it tells me something about you, and it also tells me that had you actually done that, you would have been the first MLA from China in BC, because I'm certain you would have been elected.
Everything happens for a reason. I think this is I am the happiest Wendy. I'm a happy camper, and I know we're gonna have a lot of wonderful stories to be told, and we're gonna cover a lot of things, including my political stories, my business stories, my childhood, and you know what? I'm honestly very, very humbled and very privileged that you can do this with me because you've always known to me as somebody who's very unbiased and very experienced, of course, over the years. You've done a lot of things in the media and you've got a lot of awards as well, and also I feel like your views and your reporting has been always very factual. And I think nowadays this world needs more facts and less misinformation. And I want to thank you for doing this with me.
Well, one of the things that's important to me is when I look at the media, and I've been in the media for many years, and we really have two media. We've got the mainstream media with whether it's Global, CBC, CTV, Globe and Mail, newspaper, and then you have what they call the ethnic media, which is...
There's a lot of ghettos.
Yeah, and
silos,
Yeah, and these silos for immigrants largely, and what Canada has a large immigrant population. It's 23% of the country.
Wow.
Was born outside of Canada, and that's...
I honestly didn't know about that.
Yeah,
you mean 23% of the Canadians were born outside of Canada?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And that's significantly higher than the U.S., where it's only about 15%.
Wow.
So I see the media is open often for second generation, the kids of immigrants who go to the Canadian schools and go to the Canadian journalism. But I feel that we have a big chunk of the population that we're not hearing those stories, and we need more of those conversations because we need to know more about our neighbors. And I think you're perfectly positioned because you were one of the very first people to come from China after it opened up.
Time flies. It's been 40-some years. I can't believe it.
Yeah, and you have great stories I think people can learn from you, Wendy.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I do believe that this podcast can be served as a vehicle to tell a lot of true stories and also break some misconcepts and break some silos and, some ghettos.
You're known for telling the truth.
I can be honest. I can be blunt sometimes too.
And where does that come from?
Actually, my grandparents of my father's side, they were from Shandong province.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. Do you know the difference between Shandong and Beijing?
Eastern China. What I know of Shandong is two great philosophers, Confucius and Mencius. And I know of Shandong. There are a couple of people from Shandong in my building, so I know some things. Yeah, and that it's a center for research and intellectual pursuits.
Yes. Even though I've never been to Shandong, because I came when I was young, right? And China at that time, they didn't allow you to go to another province without a proper documentation. So anyway, I've never been there. But Shandong people are known for being pretty honest and also direct and hardworking and sometimes direct to a point where they can be blunt.
Oh, okay. Well, that can serve you well.
So fasten your seatbelt, Charlie.
Yeah, okay. The other thing, though, too, because you've been here so long and you've had so many dealings with immigrants over the years.
Yes.
And you do a lot of community service as well, whether it's the Red Cross or all sorts of organizations. Maybe you can talk about some
Women's
of your...
Voters Congress. And so on and so forth. Too many.
Well, the one thing I'm interested in is you and your husband Ken have also created a scholarship.
Right.
And maybe you could talk about that.
I've done politics for 20-some years now, right? And along the way, I feel like the voices from the diverse communities are so lacking. And I feel also the next generation leaders are so not there because a lot of the immigrant families, especially the Chinese families, Chinese parents, they sometimes would encourage their kids to go into like other, fields, pick up business as a major, accounting as a major, law as a major, all that. They're all good, right? They get your jobs and wonderful. But very few Chinese parents would push their kids to study political science. And I feel this is actually important for me because I want to see more representation and more participation from the next generation, I want to see more next generation leaders in politics. And that's why me and my husband set up this scholarship for high school graduates from Richmond who are wanting to go to universities, and whoever wants to go into political science major, we are here to give out scholarship. That also comes from the fact that I have been serving as the co-chair for fundraising for Richmond Community Foundation, where they have Forever Fund. So you can hold some fund if you want to help with the scholarships. And that's why me and my husband discussed it, and we decided to be setting up a Wendy and Ken fund.
That's wonderful. One of the things I think will be fun will be to share some personal stories and learn lessons from them. And one of the things you have obviously spent a lot of time in business, and I think it will be interesting to hear some of your secrets of your business successes.
Oh, I don't have a lot of secrets, but I do know that I can, entertain the audience by telling a lot of stories that have been untold.
Well, the one thing, going back to Shandong, it makes me think where you say the Shandong people are honest or sometimes they're blunt. We're going to need a name for this show. So if we draw on that Shandong heritage, maybe we should call it Wendy Unplugged. What do you think?
Wendy Unplugged? Well, you know what? I can hardly imagine myself being unplugged. So how about Wendy Unfiltered?
Oh, Wendy Unfiltered sounds good.
How about that? Because even though I'm going to still wear some makeups, but I can tell you that I can be unfiltered in a way that I can tell my stories, to the fullest. So unfiltered, I like it better.
Well, I think unfiltered, when it comes to some of your experiences in politics, will be intriguing, I think, for people who have been paying attention to federal and provincial politics.
You know what? I feel like in politics all these years, even though you want to speak your mind, sometimes you can't. Right? Because that's the nature of the business. And you have party lines. You got to follow the party lines. You got to stay, on message. You got to stay inside the box, that sort of thing. So finally, I can have this Wendy Unfiltered podcast, where I can be speaking the truth and, be unfiltered and say what's on my mind.
Well, there's also, in terms of the people you've been in contact with over your political life. You were the BC representative for Paul Martin, who was the leader of the Liberal Party of Canada, but at that time, he was prime minister.
Right.
And then another time, you were special advisor to Christy Clark when she was premier of the province.
That's right.
And you've also run for other nominations and things like that. Your political experience is very deep.
You know what? When I think of it, I've been very blessed, even though I didn't get elected. But you know what? I have no regrets because over the years, I've learned so much and I've made so many wonderful friends in all parties, with all political stripes. And, I'm very looking forward to, in fact, not just telling my story, but also inviting all my wonderful friends, whether they're from business or politics. I would love to have them as our guests and to talk about the news of the day, the current affairs and whatever that we want to talk about. And I'm really feeling that this podcast is going to be so wonderful that people are going to be addicted to us.
Okay. Well, one of the secrets from my years in journalism is you have to tell people something they didn't know before.
Right.
And they have to like you. And I think you're in a
They don't have to like me, but I'm just going.
Well, I think they'll like you,
I'm just
Wendy.
going to tell the truth.
I'm sure they're going to like you. But the other thing is you've been in back rooms. You've been on doors, on the campaign, on knocking on doors.
Yes.
You have really walked the walk, and you have seen what it's like, even on the fundraising side of politics too, which is something that people don't talk about much.
Right.
As the show unfolds, will you talk about fundraising?
Sure, I can talk about stuff that all you have to do is to ask. I promise I'm going to be telling the truth, and I'm very looking forward to this. I've seen it all. Let's put it that way. I've seen it from behind the scene. I've seen it. I've also, been taking some front rows in politics and in business. I've also done some big deals, and I've been really, really fortunate. And I want to thank Canada and this wonderful community. And I have so many stories that I really, really want to share. And I hope people are going to like it, and I hope people are going to find it helpful.
What I'm hoping we can do is elevate people's understanding, maybe their cultural IQ, in terms of understanding different communities. There have been a lot of stereotypes, I think, about particularly the Chinese community, but other communities. And here's one, just a smaller stereotype, but people often think, oh, the Asian parents, they just want to push their kids into business or the professions. But I've actually met several first-generation Asian parents who really encourage their kids to go into the arts.
Absolutely. There are a lot of misconceptions out there. And you're right. There are a lot of examples. For instance, a lot of people think that people from China, they must be rich.
Yes.
Because China is very economically very powerful nowadays. But when I first came to Canada 40 years ago, like you said, I only had $50. That's all I had. And it's honestly, there are a lot of people from China, especially those technical immigrant category when they came earlier, not recently. A lot of people are just ordinary Canadians. They get up and, they have a 9-to-5 jobs, and they pay taxes, and they raise a family. And so just because you're from China doesn't mean you are rich. So that's just an example. We should talk about all that. What are the truth? What are the misconceptions? And I'm really looking forward to this.
This is one of the reasons that I started Vancouver, which is a weekly
publication
absolutely. With some friends, and it's multilingual because to break down the silos and to break down the stereotypes and interview people and hear their voices who are not doing necessarily conventional things. And I think that the more we learn about our neighbors, as I said earlier, the better we are as a society, because we have to grow together. We have to thrive together.
Yeah, I'd like to think that we're one and one only. But in reality, we do have silos and, different groups, and, we don't talk to each other. So I'm really looking forward to doing this podcast with you, because we can accomplish a lot together.
Well, I guess right now I'm going to wind it up. We can wind it up now, but I'm just curious if you have any final words you'd like to share, Wendy.
I just wanted to say thank you, Charlie, for being my co-host. And I wanted to also thank the viewers for tuning in and, listening to what we have to say. And I really, really hope more people are going to be subscribing to us, right? And to find out a thing or two. I have a lot of stories that are going to be told, and trust me, a lot of those stories were untold. And so fasten your seatbelt.
And this concludes the first episode of our weekly podcast, Wendy Unfiltered. My name is Charlie Smith. If you like what you saw or heard, don't be shy about telling your friends. Follow Wendy Unfiltered in the links below. In 2 weeks, we'll be back with episode 2, My Beijing Childhood, and Wendy is going to talk about what it's like growing up in China. So I'm looking forward to that. Until then, take care.